So, Emma, what are we discussing today?
Today we are discussing Low PAPP-A, what it is, and kind of does it affect anything in pregnancy.
Welcome back to the Crippen household once again to unwind and chat with friends about parenting, sharing the struggles and sharing the struggles and celebrating the successes. We're not experts or celebrities, but your favourite amateur hobby podcast people. Join us today, sat in our imaginary, where are we going to be? In our cabin in the woods.
Yep.
You've recently been to see Snow White.
I have. I actually really enjoyed it. Controversial opinion.
Yeah.
Lily loved it. Enjoyed it.
We've not got any mythical dwarves with us. You can imagine if you like.
Well, you could count Lola as a cheeky goblin. If people can hear, we have a very lively special guest today of baby Lola.
Yes, definitely. It's not don't wake the baby. The baby's already awake. If you're new here and don't know who these strange people talking to you are, I'm Elliot, the tall one, the dyslexic one, the only child, and across from me is my co-host.
Yeah, I'm Emma. What did you start off with?
I can't even remember. Something.
The short one, not dyslexic, and the multi-birth, who also happens to have two other sisters as well, just to add to the fun.
Little factoid for you today. Question for you, Emma. What's your favourite takeaway?
Ooh, normally Chinese. Definitely the best takeaway. What's your favourite takeaway?
Probably pizza. Probably pizza. I do like good pizza. So little Lola is 4 months, almost 5 months now. We also have her big sister Lily, who's almost 4.
Yeah.
So there's 4 of us, 2 daughters. We live in Yorkshire, in Harrogate. And yeah, that's a bit about us. Lily's favourite takeaway is anything with rice.
Anything with rice.
Yeah.
She generally thinks if you get a takeaway, she calls it ice. Rice is in it.
Yep.
Although yesterday she was disappointed the takeaway didn't have mashed potato.
Yeah.
Who knows why she thought that's what was going to happen.
The mind of a toddler. There you go. Ba-ding! It's parenting achievement time. The little segment at the beginning of the show where we chat about funny stories and parenting fails. What level of parenting have you unlocked this week, Emma?
Me?
Oh, have you got any stories?
Oh, yeah, probably tons.
I think last time you did talk about that you were going to share a story about a library book.
Oh, yes. And this is entirely my failing. One day we were like, we need some excitement in our lives. Let's go to the library. Because we used to go all the time for story time, but Lily's kind of outgrown that now because she's a big 4-year-old. She wanted to go pick a book, so I was like, oh, great, this will be exciting. Lola had a complete tantrum, though, so Elliot had to come save us and pick us up early. But anyway, we got this library book. Now, this library book has been sat by the front door, I'm not kidding, probably 3 weeks, waiting to return to the library.
Has anyone read it? Has anyone read the library book?
No. Because it turned out it was a Pokemon book, but it didn't have a story and it just showed different types of Pokemon.
Did you not know this when you borrowed it?
No, because we were in a rush because Lola was having a big tantrum.
I see.
And Lily was being pedantic about what book she wanted.
All right.
We haven't read it.
Yeah.
Lily
It was like an ongoing joke in our house for a few weeks where we'd pass this book and go, we better return that. We better return that. Like days would pass, weeks would pass. We've still not returned the library book.
And I kept going like, it's going to be, I know it won't be big, but I was like, it's going to be a huge fine by the time we take it back because it was
and
really...
literally, I'm not kidding, the library is like a 5-minute walk down the road from us.
It's not far. I even went to the library one time with Lily and told them, I owe you a book, I'm so sorry. I finally took the book back and it was great because they were like, oh, our system's been down for like 2 months. We've become like a big...
North Yorkshire Council.
We've
all merged.
We've all merged.
It's all terrible.
But since then...
Boo, down with the council.
Thank you. They have to get a new system in place for taking out books from the library.
I don't know. They're updating or changing their system or something.
Anyway,
so that means that they've broken their entire system.
Yeah.
Nothing works. None of their electronics and
so they were
computer
telling us,
system
it doesn't matter that it's late.
And of course, the library is a community library. It's run by little old volunteers who have no idea about technology at the best of times.
No.
So yeah, they have no idea who's got what books or whether they're late or... She took it back. But
she took it back. And the woman was like, I have no way of telling the system you've handed it back. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I'll note it down, though, so you won't get a fine. She went, but I don't even know if they can give you a fine because we have no idea who's got what books. So in the end, it's worked out okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get a fine because they have no idea who has any books.
It did amuse us a lot at the time.
It did, yeah.
I have a complaint story to voice.
No, is it against me?
Might be.
Hide me, Lola.
It was a few weeks back, but
so you've held it on to be bitter.
yeah, I've got it noted down in my list. Noted down to voice on the podcast when something's gone wrong. I'm going to talk about that on the podcast. I won't forget. You often put Lily to bed, and I have the baby downstairs, and then do cleaning and things. I was gonna say, it's actually you're right over there, you two. What are you two up to?
It's just throwing herself backwards on me. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
You tell your story.
Right.
Ignore us.
Story time.
We're being like a floppy fish.
So we had a partial success in that we had a night where Lily slept through and stayed in her room all night through, which is the first time that's happened in months and months.
Basically, since I was pregnant, she didn't want to sleep by herself.
Yeah. The reason for this success, though, is that someone, not naming any names, had let her go to sleep on a beanbag. So I came upstairs and came in the room and found a certain someone fast asleep lying on a beanbag.
In my defence, she really wanted to sleep on the beanbag. And I didn't want to fight it. I was like, yeah, she really wants to sleep on the beanbag tonight. And you know what? Kept her asleep, that
well,
beanbag.
Yeah, so I was shaking my head, but I'm like, well, she did sleep the night through and didn't come in our room in the middle of the night.
This is how ridiculous Lily is, though. She wants to be as close to the floor as possible, but she has a floor bed.
She has a floor bed.
She couldn't be closer to the floor, really.
Yeah. What have we unlocked? We've unlocked letting our kids sleep on a beanbag all night. And it worked. It was kind of a success, kind of a fail. I also thought we should mention we've started doing some weaning with Lola. Yeah. So she's begun eating some food. And we now have that. We're in that fun phase where we get very grumpy stares.
Yes.
When if you're eating anything around her, she'll stare at you. I had this wonderful moment the other day when I was eating something in front of her, and she had this wonderful smile on her face. She looked so happy. She was like, oh, food, look at that. And then her face slowly sank as the realization dawned on her that
this is not for
this
you,
wasn't food for her, that I was just eating in front of her and she wasn't going to get any. And just the look of complete betrayal on her face. She was like, what are you doing? It's just that, it only a matter of seconds, but that quick transition from like absolute joy into, no, you're not going to give me the food, was just hysterical. Anyway, there we go. There's some stories from us, things going on. I mean, there's loads of other things going on in our lives, but we'll save stories for next time. Okay, take some more heartburn tablets and let's jump into our conversation for today, which is one that Emma has specifically requested we talk about. So do you want to intro what this is and why we're talking about it?
So, if people don't know and they haven't listened to any of our other podcasts, this pregnancy, we had low PAPP-A. And I was very confused what that was.
Yes.
There doesn't seem to be that much research into it. And I thought, there's so many questions people end up having on this Facebook group. Why don't we do an episode on what it is, kind of what it means, what can happen with it, our story, try and make people feel kind of comforted that it's not horrific.
Sorry, the baby's just been sick all over my
She keeps
jumper.
being sick.
So bear with me a second. Yes, we have done an episode where we chatted about our journey through pregnancy, particularly early pregnancy. And we mentioned it as an aside in that it was something that had come up in tests and kind of the whole overview of the journey through that. But this is a more detailed look at this one particular issue. And so probably going to be an Emma heavy episode today.
Yes.
So, so who knows where it will go because Emma's in charge.
You know, I'm a lover of tangents, or rather, I can't help but go down.
I'm impressed. You've actually got some notes.
I have.
Very rare occurrence.
It's quite complicated.
Okay. So okay, I'll be the guinea pig. Start from the beginning, and if I don't understand anything, I'll jump in.
So my first thing is going to be trying to explain what low PAPP-A is.
Yeah.
So at the start of your pregnancy, if you're in the UK, you get a blood test run, and it's basically to check, is there anything like abnormal in the pregnancy? Are the hormones going up the right amount? All this other stuff. And low PAPP-A is where the protein in the blood is lower than expected during pregnancy. You normally have it done about 12 weeks. I think they say if it's done like too late, it's no longer accurate.
So I remember at that 12-week blood testy thing, there was like 3 results you got back for different things. Is that right?
There's technically 4 results because you also have your 12-week scan, and that's when they look at the is it neural? Let me look it up. Nuchal?
Because this was also the point at which we had the thing about Downs. Is that right?
Yes, it's very common with people. I'll cover that.
Yeah. So it was in amongst those test results, which is when one of the indicating factors was you have a low PAPP-A reading.
Neural tract. So you get a score for that if that's big or small. So it can be, if it's big, it's a sign of Down syndrome. If it's like small, it's not.
So remind me again, I can't remember if you said this. What is low PAPP-A? Is that like a protein or something that they're measuring?
It's the levels of protein in the blood.
Okay.
Measured in the first trimester, and it's part of a screening test for chromosomal conditions like Down syndrome, Patau syndrome.
Right.
It can be, because it's related to the placenta, so it can be a sign of like higher risk things of preterm labour, like, and the fetal growth restriction.
Yes, I remember this. I remember it was all to do with the placenta, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And about flow through that.
Exactly. So the main thing they worry about, so this is if you've suddenly got the thing and they say you've got low PAPP-A, the main thing they actually worry about is that near the end of pregnancy, because the placenta stops working properly. Oh, it's okay, Lola. That there's a reduction in growth near the end. So normally, this is when I'm like, don't really worry near the start, because if you're going to have problems, it's generally near the end of your pregnancy. But I try and like remind everybody in this Facebook group I'm part of, we always say to each other, it's just a risk factor. So it's not a diagnosis. You could be completely fine. And in our case, we were completely fine. We had no issues whatsoever. But it just is a thing that they... a thing they look for. Just means you get extra scans most of the time. But it does depend on the trust you're with. Now, this is the interesting part. So you will have been given, if you have low PAPP-A, you're given 3 numbers. The first one is HCG, which is, I think, hormone something growth. Basically, your hormone level. And then you're given your low PAPP-A level, and then your NT level, which is the measurement in the back of the baby's neck. And typically, this is given with a little thing beside it saying MOM, which stands for multiple of the median, which is basically compares the average median result of everybody. So ideally, you should get a 1 on each of these things. So your HCG, 1's perfect. Low PAPP-A, 1's perfect. NT, 1 is the perfect score.
It's very math heavy.
It is very math heavy.
I remember when they were describing us to it in the hospital, I was like, right, get my head involved, yeah.
Our numbers, for reference, so our hormone level was 2.5. So basically over twice as much as it should have been. Our low PAPP-A level was 0.3 and our NT was 0.8. So our NT number was fine. That was really close to what it should be. Our low PAPP-A was pretty low. And
but all these things, though, is there's high. Like you work within margins of error. So what some places might consider low or high, other places might not.
Yeah, so it's really helpful
factors.
For those who are podcast regular listeners. Becky and Francis, who mentioned. So I remember when I first got my test scores.
Yeah. It's like you've done an exam.
It's like I've done an exam.
How well did you do? How were your test scores?
I said to Becky, "Oh, we've got these numbers." And she wasn't dissimilar. I think she had 0.4 for low PAPP-A. And in France, they're much more lenient about what is low. So I think the cutoff point for them would be just under 0.3.
Yeah.
So I never would have been contacted about it.
And that sort of thing always makes me feel so much more happier, because
secure.
Recognizing we often have this with your sister in France, that their system works on totally different criteria.
Which makes you then go, oh, well, if it was really dangerous.
Yeah. And if we had this exact thing, if we were in France right now, they wouldn't be worried. So,
exactly. Yeah. Also, what often happens is you have this initial test, you have low PAPP-A, and because low PAPP-A can be sometimes, rarely, but sometimes a signifier for another condition. So in our case, they said there's a 1 in 83 chance that your child has Downs. And it then means you have to, well, you don't have to, but we chose to go through another test.
Yeah.
So basically, I don't know what the initial screening test is called. Well, she seems happy down there.
Yeah.
But the second test is called the NIPT test, and that is way more accurate. So I'd recommend getting that one.
I feel like I'm in a class with Emma. Emma's the teacher. Please tell us all the information.
And our
NIPT
test.
Right. Will I be? Is there going to be an exam at the end of this episode?
There might be.
Will I have to remember these things?
But just to make people feel happy, that's kind of the golden standard. So even though it won't say yes or no, it'll give you high likelihood or low likelihood of having any disorders.
I remember. So like that, the first thing with the blood test is like fairly inaccurate, isn't it? So it's kind of a...
It was really helpful. Not everybody gets this. And this is when our hospital was very good. We had access to a specialist, and she explained to us the first test, very often false positive. So a lot of people are called up who they will have nothing wrong in their pregnancies. And also what she did, which was really good, is she gave me my notes from my last pregnancy, so I could see the numbers difference.
And actually for us, having had a pregnancy before, what we noticed was your numbers weren't that different.
Not that dissimilar.
And actually, because other factors are taken into account, like your age, that's what pushed you over the line.
My low PAPP-A last time was also a little bit low, but not quite as low. And my HTG was once again high, just not as high. So they were just slightly elevated and slightly lowered, which then clearly put us in like a different category. But it wasn't dissimilar at all from our last scores. Okay, you've got 10 minutes, Lola. Then if you're messing about, when we'll put you to sleep.
It's a bit of a threat there. Put you to sleep. Right, where did we get to?
The genealogist lady.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm afraid your students in your class are not on their best behaviour.
No, don't worry.
Me and Lola are
they're messing about,
playing games at the back of the classroom. Right, we're ready, teacher. Please continue to teach us things.
She'd shown us our results from last time, so we felt more secure that it wasn't that different. So this is a good tip if you're going through this and you have had a previous pregnancy. You can ask to look at your old records. It might make you feel a bit better with similar numbers.
But this was leading us to say that the NIPT test is a lot more accurate.
A lot more accurate. So the first test, I think it just puts people through a lot of stress for no reason, really.
Yeah.
Second test, much more thorough. And if you get a low chance result on that, it's basically, it's like, there's tiny chance, but we were basically told that's gold standard. If that says no, you don't have it.
Yeah.
So what they do, once again, this is why it's a ridiculous system. It's based on the trust. So we were prescribed aspirin to take. Not everybody is, but I think about 80% of people I've come across who've had low PAPP-A have been prescribed aspirin to take throughout their pregnancy. I can't remember the dose, but with me, it was 2 pills you took once a day. And that's to help the placenta pump blood effectively, because I think it makes the blood thinner, so it's easier to get round. So therefore, it's meant to try and avoid you getting preeclampsia and help the baby's growth. You are on that. I got many more nosebleeds than my last pregnancy, and I do think it was down to taking aspirin. Then you also get just additional scans, and I was given a specialist who I had to meet with. Basically, after a scan, I'd have the nurse talk to me, and then after I think like the 3rd scan or something, I had an appointment with the specialist who just talked through, did they think the baby was growing the right amount? In our case, it was quite good. She was always right. So that was all good. But then we had the problem. This is an additional thing that many people won't have, but we were given a test for gestational diabetes.
Yeah.
Which we were 0.1 point over.
Yeah, very borderline.
Very borderline. But it then meant my specialists had to discuss together which specialist I'd be under.
So this was a real challenge for the NHS, wasn't it? That you've got two different diagnosis things, which are almost opposing each other in the way that they are wanting to...
Often with gestational diabetes, you have a rather big baby, and with low PAPP-A, they worry you have two smaller babies.
Yeah.
So they're like opposite problems.
They're both worried about the opposite problem and prescribing you things to try and deal with the opposite thing. Just crazy.
So in the end, they decided gestational diabetes would be a bigger risk. So then, weren't worried about low PAPP-A.
To me, it was completely the wrong way around, because we always took the gestational diabetes with a pinch of salt. I mean, your family all produce really big babies.
We do.
Like, Lily was really big first time round.
And I passed the gestational diabetes test last time with her. But it does make me feel comfortable. I don't think low PAPP-A is that big a deal, because I think if it was, they wouldn't have suddenly gone, oh, well, now you're just in the gestational diabetes camp.
Right.
Let's not bother about low PAPP-A. Because clearly they thought that was bigger problem.
And I mean, also, our thing was, we think the gestational diabetes was almost self-imposed.
Yes.
Because you, through most of mid-pregnancy, were absolutely like single-minded obsessed with the worry of low PAPP-A, the result of which being a small baby. So you were like mega eating like protein shakes and yogurts.
A ton of protein.
Yeah. You were like, I want to make this baby as big as possible because I'm so worried about it being small.
I'm going to do the best. And one thing, I have no idea if scientifically that is how it works. So
they all say it isn't. But yet suddenly you started eating all this stuff and they're like, you got gestational diabetes. We want to make the baby smaller. And it's like,
true.
Well, clearly. And like, why is what's the word? Like what they prescribe to manage gestational diabetes, why is that like a diet-based thing if what you eat has no effect on the size of the baby?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Clearly.
But it also amused me, my gestational diabetes diet was not very different at all from what I was eating already, because I wasn't eating a ton of sugar. I was eating a ton of protein.
It was protein, not sugar. Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah,
anyway. That amused us.
That's probably more specific to us.
Yeah, but it turned, there's a few people in the group who then worry which one they're meant to be worried about.
Well, yeah.
Which, it's a common thing.
Fair comment.
And it also amused me because they kept telling me, like, I had an appointment with the gestational diabetes team. This one, the NHS was very good. I'd been, like, lots of different specialists. And they had to go, now we have to tell you it's a very high-risk thing. And for someone who's had low PAPP-A, I was like, yeah, sure it is. Because I've been told from the beginning of this pregnancy, this is a very high-risk pregnancy. You've got low PAPP-A. So when they're going like, oh, it's very high, it can be high risk, you have to take it seriously. And I was like, yeah, but I've also been told it's really high risk already.
Yeah, like, and high risk that you'll have a small baby. Now you're telling me it's high risk I'm going to have a big baby.
The way, I think they were worried, I looked really calm. But to me, I'm like, I've already been told it's high risk.
Yeah.
Like, this is now no news to me. That this is now, you're telling me now, this is high risk. Because I'm like, yeah, I've already been told that. So this doesn't alarm me the same way I think it would alarm other people. I did not really enjoy my pregnancy at all. Because I was really stressed because I kept being told everything was high risk. I'm not one of those pregnant people who glows, who looks great, who's like, oh, it's so easy. I love being pregnant. I always hate it anyway.
Yeah. Emma is a misery in pregnancy.
I'm a misery.
We're all a misery. It's all horrible.
This is why I won't be having another baby.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy pregnancy.
Not enjoyable at all.
And this just topped it off to be stressful because...
Yeah.
So...
Well, it's not a very pleasant time at the best of times. You've got all this on top of it, all that stress.
And I'll say the worst thing was the wait. So if people have had a NIPT test, you get it sent off and it can take about 2 weeks to get the results back.
Yeah.
Every day, I was kind of in a state of anxiety, waiting, because I kept being like, we have to like make decisions, and I need to know if anything's really wrong with the baby.
We talked about this in the other episode, didn't we? Because we went into a bit more detail on the downside of things.
Yeah. So basically, that wait is horrific. Yeah. So anybody going through that, everybody goes, oh, try not to worry about it. And I'm like, you can't not.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Let's be realistic. You're not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
Like I said in the previous episode, I just played a lot of video games.
Yeah.
But
try and distract yourself.
I feel like a lot of people in the group say don't worry, and I'm like, you shouldn't, but you will.
Yeah.
Because you're pregnant,
it's just
you
reality.
keep being told by everybody you're high risk, that is going to make you worry.
Yeah.
Some other things I wanted to know, don't panic if they say your baby's got short legs. This seems to be a common thing with low PAPP-A babies.
Oh, really?
And their legs normally are absolutely fine.
Oh.
It just happens to be that the scans for legs is rather inaccurate.
We have 2 kids with really long legs.
Yeah, we do.
Like both of them. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed in the group, loads of people get told, oh, your baby's legs are a bit short, and they act like it's a worry. And yet, I've not seen any babies come out in the group and they go, oh, they've got terribly short legs. So just, I feel like there's a lot of things in scans. You have to remember that only a certain degree of accuracy. That it's a ballpark. They're not going to know exactly.
Don't Wake the Baby is a podcast brought to you by me and Emma, but also we are in partnership with the Kairos Movement, which is a organisation within the Methodist Church, and we're very grateful to both of those for letting us be able to do this endeavour. That's how we're able to do this, through the support and kind of financial backing of the church. We're kind of, we're a bit religious, but maybe not in the way that is stereotypically seen as religious.
Yeah. We're not judgy.
Yeah, this show isn't particularly, religious, or, you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to believe in God or anything to be part of our community here. We just kind of share that as, you getting to know who we are, because it is part of us, part of who we are. And we like to be honest about everything in our lives, as we are with parenting. So that's kind of what we're up to. If you want to find out more about the Kairos Movement, which is a kind of a place where we call home in terms of church, in terms of connecting with other faithy based people, and have conversations about all sorts of stuff. There's various different bits and pieces going on within that may be of interest, may not be, doesn't really matter. You can find out more about them on the website and on our webpage, where there's links to everything about what we're up to, and what the show's all about and why we're doing it, and about us at www.kairosmovement.org.uk/Don't Wake the Baby.
Very quick.
The links are down below the show notes,
bit.
in the places. Just go have a look, scroll down, go down.
Most people, if you're listening, you know how to use
Yeah. And my usual plea, if you could do the tappy tap things.
Oh, yeah. Liking, sharing.
Share this episode with a friend. If you turn on notifications, that'll be fab. So you get to know when we post another episode. That would be really good. Do it now.
Do it.
I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait here till you've done it. Gold star for you. Back to the episode.
I'm a little hunk of tin. Nobody knows what shape I'm in. I've got 4 wheels and a running barn. I'm not Honda and I'm not Ford. Cronk, cronk, rider, 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 crash, beep, beep. Honk, honk, rider, 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 crash, beep, beep. Honk, honk.
Right, we're back.
We're back. Successfully got Lola to sleep. Okay. You've got to remember everything, because apparently pregnancy is a magical science that nobody's invested money in, is kind of, it's very inaccurate. With other people I've known, they've been way off.
Yeah.
And we have to also remember they add 2 weeks on to your pregnancy that aren't really there.
Yeah.
You might have got pregnant later or earlier than they think.
There's probably like a month's leeway in when, unless you know the exact date you got pregnant. One of the reasons
I think you don't have your baby on a due date, because it's not an exact science. We don't know enough about it.
Yeah. So when they're always talking about your baby being big or small, it's possible that it's just older or younger than they think
it is. Yeah.
And they base the age on the weight. So when they scan you to say, when's it due, they're basically going, oh, well, the baby's this big, it must be this age.
So just people, don't panic too much,
which I know is hard to say. The main message of the episode,
the main message of this episode is don't panic. It's probably all going to be okay.
Yeah.
It normally is. And if it is a problem, it'll be later on, and it'll definitely be picked up because you've got loads of extra scans.
Yeah.
So try not to worry too much about it.
This is the problem, really. I feel that you've got 2 extremes. You've got, on the one hand, some NHS staff worrying you because they're giving you all this information and not explaining it particularly well.
Yes.
And on the other hand, you've got a whole other segment of the entire medical industry that have no clue what this is.
No clue.
I mean, I know we spoke to a lot of people, and you'd often start off by saying, "Oh, we have low PAPP-A," and they go, "What?
Well,
what is that?"
Even so some of the community midwives.
Yeah.
I'd go, "Oh, well, I'm in this category because I have low PAPP-A," and they go, "Well, what is that?" And I found that I had to. So this episode really is it kind of helping educate yourself so you can then tell people various times over and over again. This is what it was
born out of. You getting frustrated of the lack of information about, the fact that...
I ended up reading tons of scientific papers on Google, which I got really confused by because it was also confusing.
Yeah.
But because nobody... We were quite lucky. We had a really good person who told us about it, but nobody else really knows what it is. So a lot of the community midwives, they'll be like, "Oh, maybe I've heard of that." Maybe once you described it, they kind of knew, but a lot of them had no clue what it was.
Yeah. And it's not like it's super rare. It's not like it's...
It's because they've only just started measuring it, I think.
Okay, it's like a new one that they've...
Well, they technically did measure it when Lily was born, but I don't think it was part of the criteria that they put into effect of making you high risk.
Right. So it's just like another tick box.
Yeah, it's another thing. So now and it is good. It's good for them to measure all these things to make sure.
Yeah, we always sign up to all the extra tests, all the extra, things just to be doubly safe, doubly sure and everything.
Well, we're very pro science.
Yeah, definitely.
But in that, I would that's why I want to highlight there's still a lot of inaccuracies.
Yeah.
And we're people who really trust medicine and
there's a difference between running all these tests for the sake of it and then saying, "Oh, well, you're high risk now," and like just following that process blindly because because it's on a piece of paper and they've been told that's what they have to do, and doing it recognizing this is why we're doing it. We're doing it to pick up any risks early to help the baby, For me, there's
the
a
way
shift.
they frame it, instead of going, "Oh, you're super high risk," and worrying you, they could go, "Don't worry about it. It's really not that serious. We just have to, just make the most of your extra scans. It means that later on we
can keep an eye on you and keep things safe.
And, as a positive, you're going to see your baby more. You're going to have extra scans. I was saying to Elliot, I've never been scanned so much. Last time, I barely got scanned.
Yeah.
This time, ton of scans. The other thing not to panic, if you're quite a small person, you might just have a smaller baby. So, which, I know it sounds silly, but I really think the NHS should take into account, like with you, my husband's very tall.
Yeah.
I'm
said
small.
at the top of the episode, I'm the tall one, you're the short one.
And every time I've had a baby, they always go, "Oh, they're very long." And I always go, well,
I wonder why.
I always go, our little girl, she's tall now, Lily. We don't know with Lola yet, but she is also long for her age.
And it's not like, I'm not exactly out. I'm a normal height. Like, I'm 6 foot. It's not like I'm 7 foot or 8 foot.
I always think they don't take into account genetics particularly.
Yeah.
And I always want to go, well, yes, if their father's tall, there is a chance they could be tall.
Yeah. And I do have tall genetics in my family. Other men,
not like my family, we're all short.
Yeah.
But I know in some cases, one poor woman, they were told, "Oh, well, the baby's quite short, quite little." And her and her husband were really petite. And I wanted to be like, no offence, she's not going to have a huge baby, is she?
This is the problem. Well, I suppose it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Positives and negatives. But this is one of the challenges of basing everything on that median average score. Of course, there will be some people that aren't the exact average, and that's absolutely fine. That doesn't mean there's a problem.
Yes,
just means for you personally, you are not in that
You're
average range.
You're not in the average range,
and that's not an issue.
Yeah, exactly. I was anxious throughout the whole pregnancy.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
He had to live with it.
Yeah,
I was anxious, down in protein like it was going out of style,
shoveling down protein yogurts. Probably has no effect whatsoever, but
Yeah, well, it must have done. She was a big baby.
Anyway, what happens next?
The birth.
Okay, so we're approaching the end of pregnancy.
So at this point, they weren't really worried about me, I'll be honest, other than, they thought my
They'd
diabetes.
switched, focus onto the diabetes.
I would say normally, and this doesn't mean you can't fight with them, but typically I was told with our trust, they do not like you really to go much over 39, 40 weeks. So if you're overdue, they will induce you. And you can say you don't want to do that. That's perfectly fine. Because I would say I was induced with my first pregnancy and ended up being emergency C-section, and I don't really rate inductions.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories where they haven't
Well,
gone
if you look at stats and stuff, like the rate of them being successful, very, very low.
Not to scare people. Not a great.
Well, it's not a,
Oh no,
it's not a thing. It's just saying that as a method of actually inducing your baby to come out, it doesn't really have much of a success rate.
Well, I think because you're fighting against nature, really.
Yeah,
your baby is ready to come out. It's not.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they work purely because you probably were going to give birth soon anyway. So yeah, I just be aware that they probably will say that, and you're within your rights to fight against that and say you want to wait longer, but just be prepared.
Or presumably skip over that part and say go straight for a.
So we went straight
else.
For a elective C-section.
Yeah.
Can't rate it highly enough. Yeah. I know people like natural births. I'd had enough of natural births after my first one when I was induced and had a horrific time. Very relaxing.
And it was helpful in some ways, us playing the system a bit.
Yeah,
that we had these two things that meant you were
super high. Yeah. Because two high risk things that makes you super high risk.
Because in my head, I was like, both of these things to me feel like quite low risk. Like they are things that are added on top. Yeah, complications
but they
added on top.
In
but
pregnancy,
I was like, there must be women that have way more worrying things going on in pregnancy.
But I think the problem is, I was told there's low risk or high risk in pregnancy. There's no medium risk.
Yes, I remember.
So you just get chucked in one of the categories.
Yeah, so you're either normal or
high risk.
If there's anything wrong, they go, you're high risk.
Yeah.
I see.
Which is good because you get taken seriously. Yeah, but it is a bit
I feel like
extreme.
there should maybe be like some sort of tier system.
Yeah.
Feels a little bit rudimentary.
It does, yeah. But yes, so like with your birthing options, I've known some people have had water births, they've been fine.
Yeah.
Like try not to let it limit you, basically, unless they're really worried about growth or something. If your baby's measuring normal, you should be able to have a normal birth.
So as you ramp up towards the end of pregnancy, they'll be keeping a closer eye on you.
They will.
You have some more scans at that point?
You've got more scans, yeah.
And then they're particularly looking like if growth is slowing down.
Yeah, because at the start of pregnancy, you maybe have one extra scan, but they're not that worried if that scan's fine, because typically growth drops off towards the end if it is a placenta problem. So near the end, you have more scans just to check.
And they particularly focus on measuring that blood flow in the placenta,
I totally forgot about that. So this happened
tell us about that.
This happened about 3 times in our scans.
Yeah. Is this something that doesn't normally happen in
no, they
scans?
don't normally check in a normal scan. So they will check the blood flow, and it's something called notches. I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
I think if it's a high PI number, bad, I think, and I think low PI number good.
Sure. All I know is we were sat in the scan rooms,
and they literally listen.
He's going whoop 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 whoop, and I'm sat there going like, is this good? I wonder if this is good. Yeah. Maybe it's bad. I know.
And you always look at their face like, do they look happy? Do they look? And they normally look just very serious.
Yeah.
And you're like, is that a good noise or a bad noise? So they check, see if the placenta's working fine. In our case, the blood flow was always fine. But that's normally the earliest indication. If they can see some resistance, then that means you could have.
So in those cases, say, the blood flow's not looking as healthy as it should be, maybe growth is beginning to slow down, they're likely to push for you to give birth earlier, is that right? Yeah,
that's normally the course of action.
So again, that in itself is maybe slightly more risky, but people give birth early, all the time anyway, and have small babies.
And an extreme measure, they would give you steroids just so the baby can breathe and stuff when it's born. So even in the worst case scenario, like what you're talking about is having a slightly early birth and maybe a slightly small baby. Yes, exactly.
All of which that the medicine and the science are there to support that. That's not going to cause a big problem.
No. I always try and make people feel better in the group, in that I was born 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
Nearly,
How old are you?
Nearly.
You've just had your birthday.
Am I 32?
You're 32 now?
I'm 32.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm nearly 33, but I'm not at all. That's a lie.
No. Literally furthest away from that you could be at any point in the year, having just had your birthday.
This is how confused I am. So 32 years ago I was born, and I was 2 pounds 2 ounces.
Yeah.
And I survived, and I was fine.
Yeah.
So just think about that, and the science that has improved so much since then.
Yeah.
I think it's like artery something. I don't know. It's a number I don't understand because we never had a problem with it, so I never looked into it. I was just always told it was fine.
I think it's a good thing at the top of the episode I also said we're not experts or, like we are doing medical information in this show and we're like, I think it's this.
It's this thing they call it.
Don't take our word for it exactly.
Well, this is the problem.
Do your own research.
If I didn't experience the problem, I didn't look into it.
Yeah.
Because they would just tell me it was fine and I was like, great.
We can only share our story.
Fine.
Yeah.
And if you're not having the Doppler done on your placenta, make them do it. So there's some trusts where they've forgotten to do it for people.
Oh, dear.
Once again, just chase up things. Yeah. People are very bad.
Sometimes I think we've had bad experiences with the NHS, which we have. But
not that bad.
Other people, there's a lot of horror
I'd
stories.
say with the Low PAPP-A stuff, they were really good, really.
Pretty good, yeah. Pretty
thorough.
on it. Yeah.
There was various people. I can't remember was it 18 weeks we had a scan?
Don't ask me.
That ballpark, 16 to 18 weeks, they gave us another scan. And at that point, they should be doing a Doppler.
Yeah.
So if they don't do that, and you know you have Low PAPP-A, can you go, hey, mate, I'm going to be doing a Doppler?
You say, you come Doppel me right now.
Yeah. It's been numerous times in our group, people have gone, well, they never did that. And I'm like, well, it's what I'm going to be doing to check stuff. So...
Anything during like the birth process? I mean, I remember we would constantly, they'd always ask about, they'd never read your notes. They'd never know what was going on.
No.
So they'd always be asking you about stuff. And we'd always go, oh, well, we have Low PAPP-A. And then they'd look at you and go, huh? And then you'd have to explain it.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, oh, well, I don't think that affects anything that we're doing here. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, just
maybe take a little book with you and just write an explanation of what it is.
But it's true though, like during the whole birth process, there wasn't really anything where Low PAPP-A came into play, really, was there?
No, not really.
It bumped us up the list so that we could get our C-section booked in.
Yeah, so we were a priority because we had Low PAPP-A and gestational diabetes.
Yeah, but other than that, after that point, it's just a normal birth process.
Yeah.
Well, as much as any birth is normal.
Well, yeah. And when they do a birth plan, that's a joke because, nothing ever goes to plan. But you can hope for the best. I'm trying to think we've missed anything about Low PAPP-A.
Do you want to look through your notes?
Whoa. Don't make yourself sick. Calm down. I know your teethies hurt. Oh, well. A lot of people are given numbers and kind of sent for more tests, but not told why or how it's bad or what. Like, so loads of people in the group go, well, what's... So one poor lady, because I'd put my numbers in the group and I was like, oh, my HCG was 2.5. And she was like, mine's only 1. And I was like, that's the right number. That's really good. But she hadn't been told that. They'd just been given numbers. And she was thinking, oh, hers looks like it's 2.5. Mine must be low. And I was like, no, 1 is the ideal.
Yeah.
1's great. So remember, if you're giving your numbers in MOM, 1 is ideal.
I mean, I don't think they actually give you an exact, but what are the boundaries within which they say that's a fine thing? So, like, what's the threshold you need to cross in either direction before they go, that's a problem?
Honestly, I don't really know.
We don't know.
Because I know with Low PAPP-A, above 0.3, they think is fine, which I would say quite a big drop from 1 to 0.3.
So anywhere between 0.3 and 1.
Yeah, so like 0.3 low, but if you're at 0.4, you're fine. With HCG, I don't think they worry if it's like 1.5.
So sorry, I'm lost again. I've
HCG,
not been paying attention for my exam.
Level.
What's I get the other one's the
HCG hormone level.
Yeah, but we've been talking about Low PAPP-A. So what this hormone level?
Yes.
How does that play into the?
Honestly, it doesn't really.
Oh.
They worry about it.
It's just another indicator.
It can be a sign of Downs. As we were told by the specialist, everybody's hormone level is different.
Yeah.
You might happen to have, especially if you have girls, which I have, it is generally a higher number. It can mean nothing.
Right.
So really don't worry about the hormone level. They just do it in conjunction with Low PAPP-A because if you have Low PAPP-A and high HCG, it can be a Sound-Stein syndrome.
Yeah.
But so that's purely why they do it, I think. Or it could be a sign of another chromosomal disorder, but generally they don't really worry about that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think I've done all my notes.
Very good. Well, thank you for the class, Miss Crippen.
The class. Yeah.
And we wouldn't recommend following Emma's example and shoveling down protein yogurts.
I mean, did I have a big baby? Yes. Would I say it's a scientific thing? No, but maybe it helped. If you're really worried and you think it'll give you some relief.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt. Had a good baby.
So we're coming to the end of the episode, and we have our little segment where we like to share stories from listeners, things that have been sent in. We've been very poor at keeping up with this segment and actually gathering stories from people. So apologies for that. Do send stuff in, even when we forget to ask and request and get in touch.
Yeah.
But, send us stuff on social media, or, all the links are down below, or website and all that stuff. If you've got something you'd like to share related to what we've said or not related to what we've said, a parenting achievement, fail story, or just anything related to the topic. Got any stories?
Well, I've just been sent my sister in Plymouth. Anybody who doesn't know, I've got a ton of sisters.
Right, not a literal ton. I mean, they are numerically, there's only 5 of them.
That's a lot. Her youngest boy, Aiden, has gone to school, and she said school are going to have a fun day with him today because he's professing to everybody that he's blind.
Oh.
He cannot see. Literally closing his eyes, walking around.
Oh.
And she was like, well, school's going to have a nice time with him today because he's been like this since this morning and he's really committed to the role. Like, he's gone to school, closing his eyes, go walking in. The teacher's met him, and Laura's like, yes, he says he's blind today. And the teacher's just been like, okay. So Laura's like, hopefully at some point he snaps out of this game, but we'll see. She was worried the school would go, he seems to have a problem with his eyes. But no, he's not that good an actor, so she thinks he'll be fine.
Yeah. Last time we were chatting about Bluey, and one of the comments on YouTube were telling us about their favourite episodes that they like, saying about how onesies hit them right in the feelings with Brandy. Rain is great too, and love the music in it. Love Bandit and Chili as parents, think they're really great but also imperfect. Bingo is my favourite. She's kind of shyer and more sensitive but has a big imagination. So yeah, love to hear what your thoughts are on stuff that we're talking about in the episodes.
We were saying how good Bluey is.
Yeah.
This morning, Lily was watching it.
Yeah.
Lily was like, Bluey's like me, she doesn't like going to bed. And I was like, but she does, doesn't she? She has a story and then she goes to bed. She's like, but she doesn't want to.
Yeah, challenging. On the flip side, recently, Lily has been coming up with the most imaginative songs and stories and just things she comes out with, just random little things. And you're like, what is going on in this game? And she tells you about it. And it's like, just so creative.
Very creative.
I do put a lot of that down to her picking up some of the influence of Bluey in the way that they imagine things.
That's true. Sometimes, though, it's really hard to understand the concept of the game.
Yeah, really difficult. Yeah.
Like last night, she was telling me her bed was the washing machine and we had to click the buttons on the side of the bed, and she was washing my book to make sure it was clean. And I had to stand in the corner with Elsa and Anna.
Right.
Or she always calls her Anna because, that's why they say her name.
Yeah. It's American.
So we had to stand in a corner, me, Invisible Elsa, Invisible Anna, in a line like we're at school. And she's like, you've got to wait till your book is washed.
It brings you so much joy at the moment. I mean, it is crazy, but she just comes out with such strange things and just such wild imagination.
Also, just the phrases. Like her phrase, my nose is running out, means her nose is running.
Yeah.
She calls a bowl a boil.
Yeah.
Don't know what accent that is. She's like, I need a boil.
A preview then for going forward, we are going to do an episode all about speech and talking. I really want to do an episode where we talk through the whole overview of like going from first words right through to where we are now in the process of Lily being able to talk in full sentences, but also how we develop language, tips and games and things we've done to help with development of language. So particularly you as a linguist, I thought it could be a really interesting topic.
True.
So you can look forward to that on a future episode. This has been the podcast.
It has. I'm afraid it's been quite a serious one this week.
Yeah.
Because I've just been trying to help people out.
Yeah, it's very, very academic learning.
Yes.
Informational, type thing. It makes it a nice change from our normal little rambling conversations where we just laugh about stuff.
Yeah, I still feel like there's a bit of rambling going on there.
Well, you know what we're like.
Well, we're both trying to speak.
Look, and we're trying to end the podcast right now, and we are rambling as we speak. Anyway, goodbye. This is the end. You've reached the end. Sleep well. God bless.
I just wanted to apologise.
No, it's the end. It's the end. This is it. We've finished. Goodbye. Be gone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Don't wake the baby.
I'm not Honda and I'm not Ford. Honk honk, rattle rattle rattle, crash beep beep. Honk honk, rattle rattle rattle, crash beep beep. Honk honk. I'm a little hunk of tin. Nobody knows what shape I'm in. I've got 4 wheels and I'm running bored. I'm not Honda and I'm not Ford. Honk honk, rattle rattle rattle, crash beep beep.